Hello and welcome. Today I'll be going over how to apply to the local fund worker ownership. We are the Shared Ownership Center at Nexus. Today is June 26, 2025, and let's get going. Oop. Okay, so our agenda for today is do some brief introductions. You'll meet the team, the Shared Ownership Center at Nexus. I'll go over the local fund goals and eligibility. Then I'll be doing a step-by-step application. We'll have time for Q&A and then go over next steps for local fund. So this as a reminder, I'm so sorry. All right, so as I was saying, this is the end of our webinar series of the business planning webinar series, webinar 7. We had a fantastic lineup the last 2 months that are all on YouTube. So check them out if you haven't already. But each webinar has built upon itself to then feed into today's webinar on how to apply for the local fund. Okay, so if you'd like in the chat, share your name, preferred pronouns, and any questions you may have about the local fund application. While you're doing that, I'll tell you a bit about the Shared Ownership Center. We are a team of consultants that support Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities by developing real estate investment cooperatives and worker owner cooperatives. Our mission is to build community wealth through democratically owned enterprises that broadly share economic and social benefits. This is our mighty team of 4. Benjamin Size, the director of the Shared Ownership Center. Christina Nicholson's the cooperative developer. I'm Deanna Siegel-Garcia, I'm the program manager, and Patty Viafra is the director of the Worker Ownership Initiative. So a bit about our services is, so for worker owner co-op startups, what we provide for like new co-op groups, new groups of people interested in forming a co-op, training on decision-making and governance within a cooperative framework, a review of the business plan, co-op design, support incorporation as a cooperative, so registering with the state, in this case, state of Minnesota, advice on a successful capitalization, so where's the funding coming from, making sure it will sustain the first couple years of business, and operationalizing the business plan and supporting the launch. So going from the conversation to practice. And then collab, which is post-transition support, since often we know that the first couple years are the most difficult for a business to survive. So making sure that a co-op business startup survives. Here in this photo as a little depiction of the Feminist Book Club. They're based in Minneapolis, but they operate nationally. They recently transitioned to a worker-owned co-op from a more traditional business, LLC, last year, I believe. So that was very exciting. I see we have a question in chat, and I'm just going to hold off on that one until we're later on the local fund, if you don't mind. So for services with the co-op transitions, like Feminist Book Club, right, they transitioned. This is another one, the Improve Group based in St. Paul. They're an evaluation consulting firm, and they transitioned August 2023. So feasibility, looking at the finances of the co-op, and getting a sense of where they've been and where they'd like to go, making sure it's doable, making sure it's feasible. The transition project management, so we'll manage the project, make sure it keeps on going and meets those timelines because time is moving. The co-op design and development, again, collab, that post-transition support, and then also connecting businesses to technical advisors, so attorneys, lenders, financiers, consultants, and then CPAs, certified public accountants. Okay, so that's a bit about what the Shared Ownership Center does. And then now I'll be going to local funds. So we had a great question in the chat. When can I apply for the fund? Is it available now? The short answer is yes. It's a rolling application. And so it's, yeah, first come, first served. But to start your application, we're asking folks to fill out our inquiry form so we can get a sense of what you're interested in, what's the best fit with the grant program. So the local fund in total, there's two parts of the program. I'm focusing on worker ownership for today, but we also have the fund for community ownership. In total, it leverages 2.5 million to support worker-owned cooperatives and community ownership in the city of St. Paul, Minnesota. This project is being supported in whole or in part by federal award number SLFRP 1612, awarded to Nexus Community Partners by the U.S. Department of Treasury. So the goals of the program is to generally increase the number of worker-owned businesses in the city of St. Paul by helping with those startup and transition costs and mitigating any financial hardship for eligible worker-owned, also known as employee-owned businesses, particularly impacted by COVID-19. So we hope to improve the financial condition of St. Paul workers, particularly those who identify as Black, Indigenous, and people of color, through worker ownership opportunities. We hope to improve the financial stability of low-income St. Paul neighborhoods through support of worker-owned small businesses. We also plan to expand the community of capital providers actively engaged in the co-op ecosystem to enhance opportunities for leverage funding. So how can we make sure we're working with you so you get more money? Our services that are funded by the local fund include technical assistance and trainings, so business and financial planning, and technical assistance for establishing a co-op business structure. And then also there's grant money that could be used for business expansion or for startup grants. Again, the emergency financial hardship assistance grants for worker owner co-ops impacted by COVID-19. And that also can cover stipends for members of small co-op startups and conversions. So I'm going to go over eligibility, and I'm just going to assume that a qualified census tract may be a new concept. So I'll go into that a little bit more in depth. But eligibility for businesses that wish to transition to a worker-owned co-op must be located on a qualified census tract in St. Paul. So all of the colorful parts of the map, hopefully you can see my cursor, those are all qualified census tracts from years 2021 to 2025. So any qualified census tract.
Deanna, would you,
Yeah.
I just want to double check. Can you help me share screen? I just want to make sure that we see that. There we go. Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, sure. Right. And then the for co-ops to receive a grant, either be located in QCT or meet the Small Business Administration's disadvantaged business qualifications. Grants for businesses transitioning to a worker-owned co-op are up to $150,000 based on availability of funds, potential impact, and need. So this is where I'm going to go into some of these terms. We have a handy dandy FAQ on our website where we break down what are qualified census tracts. So I'm going to use that. So according to HUD, Housing and Urban Development Department, QCT has to have at least 50% or more of households with incomes that are less than 60% of the area median income, or the poverty rate is at least 25%. Because I need real numbers to fully understand a concept. I included some numbers from 2024 based off of the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area. All this information is from Census, US Census, so fill out your census if you get one in the mail. But in 2024, the area median income for a household family of four, which they define as 2 adults and 2 children, was $124,200. For comparison, for a single adult with no children, that was $86,950. And then, oh, we got someone in the waiting room. Okay. Hello and welcome. We're just going over eligibility for the local fund. So I'm just explaining qualified census tracts right now. But if you have any questions about local fund, if you want to introduce yourself, please put that in the chat and we'll get to it. All right, so back to QCTs. And then for comparison, the 2024 Federal Poverty Guideline for a family of four, again, 2 adults, 2 children, 3,100, 200, single adult, $15,060. So to know what the 60% AMI, that means for a family of four, they made 74,500 or less. For a single adult household, it's 52,150 or less. For it to be a poverty rate, meaning 25% of the census tract household surveys did not generate income that exceeded, oh, sorry, excuse me. So for a family of four that is federally recognized as being in poverty, they generated 31,200 or less, single adult, 15,000. Yes, happy to have you. Or less. So if 25% of the census tract was making money that 31K or less, 15,000 or less, you're considered poverty. If it's more than 25%, it's considered a qualified census tract for grant programs like ours and other kinds of development projects. Yeah, wow. So that was, I hope that was a helpful breakdown of qualified census tracts. And now I'll be going over small business associations, disadvantaged business criteria. So to qualify for small disadvantaged business criteria, a business must be 51% or more owned and controlled by one or more disadvantaged persons. The disadvantaged person or persons must be socially disadvantaged and economically disadvantaged. If you go to these links, it takes you to the US Code of Federal Regulations, where they break down every single member group that is considered socially disadvantaged in simple terms. Black, Indigenous, and people of color would qualify as socially disadvantaged. But then there are other ways that people could qualify socially disadvantaged as long as they have the paperwork to prove it. So again, this is a federal grant where we have to comply with these federal regulations. So I'm gonna, oh, yep, there we go. Oh, no. Okay. There we go. Right, again, so for businesses hoping to transition to a worker-owned co-op are eligible for up to 150,000 as long as they meet these 2 criteria of being in a qualified census tract. All right, and then if you click this link, that will take you to our map. And I highly recommend like looking that over. And you can see all the different years. That's really slick. So, you know, the map that's in the presentation, that's this, when all of them are linked. Or so you can click, see what the census tract is. If your business is at the airport, it would qualify. Okay, back to the presentation. All right. So for startups, co-ops, worker-owner co-ops, they are eligible if at least 3 founders, if they have at least 3 founders and one is a St. Paul resident. They commit to incorporating in St. Paul, so based in St. Paul, and then have founders that meet SBA's disadvantaged business qualifications, or the co-op is located in a qualified census tract. Grants for startup co-ops are up to 150,000 based on availability of funds, impact, and need. This is a client that we worked with, Mayday Cafe. They're in Minneapolis. They transitioned to a worker-owner co-op. They have 5 owners, and they're doing great. So great example of a successful transition. For eligibility for the emergency financial hardship assistance. So this is for worker-owned co-ops impacted by COVID-19. The qualifications are they have to be a co-op with at least 3 employee owners, have existed as a small business for at least 2 years, be located in St. Paul, and demonstrate negative impacts from COVID-19. Grant awards for this particular program is up to 50,000 based on funds, impact, and need. And then I had to show Happy Earth Cleaning Co-op. They transitioned to worker owner co-op in 2020. And also fantastic. I use them once a month. They do great work. And they're based in Minneapolis. All right, the meat of this. This is why you're here. How to apply to the local fund worker ownership. So a couple things before I get into it. The application is by invitation after filling out the Shared Ownership Center's inquiry form on our website. It's essentially an informal letter of inquiry, like other grant programs may have. And so we'll review it, get back to you if the information provided, if it meets our qualifications or not. We'll notify you if it does or does not. It's local fund, like I said earlier, it's a rolling application. So this means first come, first served. The first groups to apply are the first to be considered by the Worker Ownership Grant Committee. So funds are not guaranteed until the Worker Ownership Grant Committee approves the request. And they meet about quarterly. Once ready to apply, we highly, highly recommend that all attachment materials are ready for submission for a smooth application. Okay, so I wanted to go into some of the attachments and the bigger questions before you actually look at the application together. Because we love you, we have provided a template for the business plan. It's optional, but again, highly recommend to include. It just gives great insight into where you're at with your current business or potential startup, so we can better support you and have a faster process. So if you need additional support with like filling out the business plan, our first webinar would be great for this, concept to business plan. So all these are linked, and we're going to share the slide deck after our webinar, and it'll be in the YouTube caption, so you'll always have access to it. If not, please reach out to our email, soc@nexuscp.org, for any kind of technical support. So the other big question that is important to consider with the application is the grant and projection information. This is required. It does not have to be 500 words, but we're asking that it is 500 or less. And the response can be, it's a fill-in, or you can add it as an attachment. We're also asking for total project costs and with a breakdown of uses and sources of funds. So this can be filled out directly in the application or added as a spreadsheet as an attachment. If you need support with how to best frame it, how to think through it, recommend watching our webinars, Finance 101 and Projection Sources and Uses. Really fantastic information, and even a template for projection sources and uses. So I just wanted to like show what the business plan looks like real quick. And so your review will be slightly different, but you can download a copy by going to File and Download. So you can download it as any of these document files, whatever's best for your needs. So it's a great, just brief, like, what should you be including? How should with your business plan outline? 13 pages, not too bad. And so our consultant Mara did a fantastic job. She's been working on this for a couple decades now, so it is. So as she said, some of the links might be a little old, but I get an idea of where she's going, and essentially it's your blueprint for your plan. So let me go back to our presentation. Oop, nope. Okay. Right. So these links take you to those YouTube videos, our webinars that I was telling you about. Okay, next slide. Timeline. So if you're interested, we highly recommend that you fill out our inquiry form by August 30th, 2025. Applications will be accepted on a rolling basis until September 1st, 2026. So we do have a cutoff date. And then now we'll go into the application itself. All right. Okay, so this is what it looks like. For this step-by-step, I'm going to be applying as a cooperative transition. So a business that is planning to or in the process of converting to a worker-owned cooperative. Um, just so we don't get confused, this will be a test. I For this purpose, I have a art studio, and I'm interested in turning it into a um, worker owner co-op. So I'm in St. Paul because that's the only way it you qualify. And then, oh goodness, St. Paul zip code. I think that's one. Um, right. So, uh, art at gmail.com. Business is operational. We started 3 years ago. So 2022. And then, we have some our employer identification number is there. We're a co-op transition. Let's say we're an LLC that has a cooperative framework, but again, not a co-op yet. So we say yes, then it shows up as, adding that attachment. I'm just going to say no, so we can keep going. So for primary contact information, something to note is that application updates will be sent to the primary contact's email. So make sure it's working, that you spell it correctly, and that it's something that's checked frequently. So pretty standard. Highly also recommend a secondary contact in the event we can't get in touch with you. And if you have a board or a tertiary contact, you can add that here as well. Okay, so I'm a business that already exists, and we have, say, 3 employees full-time, 2 part-time. We don't have any worker owners because we're not a co-op yet, so 0. And then how many worker owners identify as disadvantaged? Again, we don't have any, so 0. How many are full-time employees do you expect to add in the next 6 to 12 months as a result of this project? I'm hoping with this funding, we can hire an additional 2 more and then an additional 1 more part-time. And then this is here as a review of the qualified census tracts that we went over earlier, the socially disadvantaged definitions. Oh, and cool, welcome. Yes, and then something to keep in mind is that when applying as a worker-owned co-op, to register the co-op business with sam.gov. And yeah, if you have any questions about the application as I'm going through, just add them, put them into the chat, and we can go over it. So I'm going to keep going. We're on our last page already. Wonderful. Okay, so why am I requesting this grant? And how will it help our worker-owned co-op? So again, in this test practice, I'm an art studio that wants to expand, hoping to either maybe move to a bigger building or expand to the building next door. And I mean, you can dress it up, of course, but at the heart, what are we trying to say? And open a gallery space that is open until midnight. Want to liven up the neighborhood. So yeah, if you don't feel like using the space, you can attach the file. We're recommending that you attach it as a Microsoft Word doc or a doc. And then for additional funding, what additional funding has the organization leverage for this project? If we're getting this, we're also hoping to get an angel investor of like 50K. So, oop, that's not a 0. Okay. From local investor. Okay. So this is our projections or sources and uses of funds. You can fill it out here, or you can add it as a spreadsheet, whatever works best for your workflow. So yeah, we anticipate, $2,000 in new equipment. Let's say 3K for furniture and fixtures, leasehold improvements. Uh, we're just doing nice big round numbers. Inventory, I really want to expand our paints. Great. We're gonna do 10K for that. And other from that angel investor. Yeah. Yeah, okay, great. So total uses of funds is 69,000, and our source, we're really hoping that this Nexus grant covers, 60K of that. Well, I guess I said 50 from the, oh wait, I got confused. It's also nice that it does the math automatically. Yay. Tech problems connecting. For sure. Can do that. Thanks, Jean. All right. And then other equipment, right? That was other equipment. Yeah. Let's just do that. All right. So total sources. Okay. So then we have, so you would be doing this slower and your numbers would match. For the name of the bank, you put down the bank institution that you work with. And then we sign it and you say you're not a robot and you submit. That is the application. Okay, so we have a question. I'm going to read out loud. So I own an events and DJ entertainment business registered as an LLC. For now, I'm the sole owner. To qualify, where do I go from here? Yeah, so that's cool. To qualify, you would want to be in partnership with at least 2 other people to then be able to transition to a worker-owned cooperative. So this grant is only for businesses intending to convert to a co-op or for pre-existing worker-owner co-ops. So yeah, I would, if you have some business partners that you work with directly with the DJ business or outside of that, we start with there. But you also could fill out our inquiry form if there's like more specifics that you are seeking support on. But if you want to add more in the chat, please do. Okay. Gosh, we're flowing through. Any more questions? That was kind of, yeah. Any more questions?
I had one question I wanted to share from before the presentation, Deanna, and the question was, if I fill out the application form, how long before I hear back from someone in case I've missed something, or how will I know if you all got my form?
That's a good question. Well, ideally we would get back to you within a week, maybe up to 2 weeks depending on schedules, but we would, yeah, email back, confirm that we received your application, and send a follow-up with a checklist of like all the additional documentation we may need. Or if, like, for example, if your business plan wasn't ready at the time of application, but it is later, you can of course submit that at a later time.
Great, thank you. The last question was, if I don't have any other funding, but I'm looking for it, can I still apply?
Absolutely, yes. And something that we can do at the Shared Ownership Center is help support and connect with finding additional funding. So either through a community development, CDFI, community development financial institution or a bank, and finding like a loan, or if there are other foundations or grant providers that have a good fit, we would connect you with them. Okay, well, thanks so much for these questions. Seeing no others, I'm going to keep going. All right, so if we continue to have any other questions come up, oh yeah, Jean, go for it.
Okay, you can hear me. Whenever you have shared ownership, you always have problems sometimes with not always getting along, or some people change their agenda or their life plans where things kind of break up. Do you have contracts or provisions that are supposed to include how you deal with that in a shared ownership?
That's a fantastic question. My colleague and I were just talking about this before the webinar, how, yeah, how important it is to support with navigating those very real life conflicts that come up. With your community, with coworkers, whoever you're in partnership with. Um, so that kind of support is included with like our technical assistance, since my colleagues have years of experience working with so many different co-ops, that they've navigated a lot of, more messier situations. Yeah. Christina, do you want to add to that?
It's true. It's a great question, Jean. It gets to the heart of a lot of what I think keeps folks from working on co-ops. The other thing is when you're forming a co-op, you write your bylaws so that you're laying out explicitly the framework for your business. And that framework can include the buy-in, what owners can expect to get back from the business and on what time frame, their rights and responsibilities as owners. And so the more you can spell that out in the beginning in your bylaws, collaboratively, ideally with the other worker owners, that's one place where you can help settle some of those questions up front. And then to Deanna's point, the other thing that's really important is to be as transparent as possible about decision making and finances, right? Those are the two hot buttons for most companies. And if you can build in a practice early about your decision making process so that folks understand what decisions live where in the organization, and then also have some form of open book management or monthly meeting, a finance committee, a place where if people have questions about money, what they're making, how profitable the business is, they have a reliable and regular meeting so that they can be up to speed on that. Both of those things really help build the culture of accountability and transparency that you want to see in a co-op.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. And then is there a way you can get one-on-one with any of your staff for further help? Yes. So the best way to set that up is by filling out our inquiry form. So you just scroll down and you start filling it out. It's a little deceptively looking short. It's longer once you start filling it out. So if you're looking to transition, then it expands. We ask a bunch more detailed questions. And if you're interested in the local fund, then that also expands. So we get a sense of how you would be eligible for the local fund.
And I will say too, Vico, if you're just looking to learn more about what co-ops, how co-ops work, how they operate, you can also just fill out this form and say, I'm just looking for more general information about cooperatives. We'd be happy to set up a half hour with you just to get a sense of where you are in your process. And if the local fund or our particular shared ownership center isn't the right fit for you at this moment, we also have some other resources we can point you to kind of help you build out your business plan for how to start your cooperative and then maybe come back to us. So we'd be happy just to fill this out, fill out what you know, and we'd be happy to spend half an hour just walking you through what some of your options may look like.
Yeah, and I was thinking about your question a little bit for more, Pico, of if you have any employees with your business, they could become worker owners if they're interested. So yeah, that could be an option. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming on this rainy afternoon. And we hope to hear from y'all soon.